Your life right now is broadcasting a frequency, and that frequency isn't based on what you wish for. You subconsciously expect. Not what you desire, not what you visualize on vision boards, not what you write in journals with glitter pens and optimism, but what your subconscious accepts as true. The world you're living in, the outcomes you're repeatedly cycling through, the results that show up again and again, these are not accidents. These are not arbitrary. These are not just karma, luck, or fate. They are precise reflections of the signals you're sending through a deeper layer of your mind, the subconscious layer. In this episode, we're going straight into the engine room of self-reality, the fusion point between your subconscious mind and the quantum field. And to guide us, we're looking to one of the most pragmatic and often misunderstood minds in metaphysical science, Dr. Joseph Murphy. You've probably heard his name in the context of The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, a classic in the world of mind science. But here's the thing, Murphy wasn't writing for beginners trying to feel better. He was handing out the raw schematics for transforming personal reality by reprogramming subconscious codes, and doing it in a way that aligns with cutting-edge ideas in quantum theory today. Now here's where most people get it wrong. They think manifestation is about attraction. But that model is outdated. It implies that what you want is out there somewhere, waiting to be lured in. That model assumes separation. It assumes time. It assumes lack. Murphy's codes reject that paradigm completely. He showed that the reality you want isn't waiting to be attracted. It's already present in the field. And the only thing required to experience it, alignment, that's not magical thinking. That's quantum thinking. Because the field of reality isn't fixed. It's probabilistic. That means every version of your life, every potential outcome, every identity you could become, already exists in a latent state. What brings one into view? Not effort, not hustle, not willpower, is precision. It's internal resonance. And that's where Joseph Murphy's teachings become not just relevant, but revolutionary. This isn't about vague affirmations or surface-level positivity. This is about coding your subconscious with exact belief patterns that instruct the quantum field on which timeline to collapse. Let that land. Your beliefs don't just influence your behavior. They shape the very fabric of possibility. So if you're stuck in cycles you can't explain, if you're working hard and barely seeing change, if you keep attracting what you don't want, despite your best intentions, there's a very high chance you're tuned into the wrong timeline without realizing it. Because your subconscious is commanding outcomes you didn't consciously authorize. And that's what we're changing today. This isn't theory. This is instruction. Today, we're unpacking 5 of Joseph Murphy's most powerful belief codes. Coded principles that act as internal commands to rewrite your subconscious programming and force the quantum field to reorganize itself around your updated identity. Each code is a tool, a signal, a frequency, and when used correctly, these codes don't manifest vague dreams, they collapse timelines. Fast. So here's what to expect. You'll learn why your subconscious never argues, and how that impacts every decision you think you're making. You'll uncover the exact belief frequency equation that determines which outcomes stay potential and which become real. You'll learn why acting as if doesn't work for most people and what to do instead. You'll understand why effort can actually block your results, and how surrender creates dominance in the quantum field. You'll learn to stop asking and start imprinting because the subconscious doesn't respond to begging, it responds to authority. And most of all, you'll come face to face with the truth. The version of you who already has everything you want, already exists. These codes are how you meet them. Now let's unlock the first, because before you change your world, you must understand the language it's currently obeying. Let's begin. Right now, at this very moment, your subconscious mind is taking orders. Not from your conscious desires, not from your highest hopes, but from the most repeated instructions it has received, whether you meant to give them or not. Because here's the reality. The subconscious is not a filter. It's not a judge. It's not a strategist. It doesn't evaluate your commands. It doesn't consider if they're good for you. It simply says, yes, over and over, without resistance, without discretion. So here's the uncomfortable question. What have you been unconsciously commanding for years? Joseph Murphy taught that the subconscious doesn't understand sarcasm, doubt, or delay. It responds only to repetition, emotional intensity, and inner authority. Say you constantly worry about not having enough money. Even if consciously you're affirming abundance, your subconscious is receiving a louder signal: lack, fear, urgency. The subconscious registers that as the dominant input and responds with a simple yes. Yes, you don't have enough. Yes, scarcity is real. Yes, this is your reality. And in response, the quantum field collapses into timelines that match. This is not just philosophy. This is consistent with quantum mechanics, particularly the principle of wave function collapse. In any given moment, multiple potential outcomes exist. But the act of observation, expectation, and resonance determines which outcome materializes. Your subconscious acts as that observer. It's your internal lens, and it decides where your energy flows, where your identity points, and which possibilities resolve into form. And it never questions your input. Only you do. Now let's go even deeper. Have you ever tried to reprogram your thinking with affirmations, only to feel resistance, disbelief, or emotional pushback? That's not because affirmations don't work. It's because the subconscious is still being instructed more powerfully by your emotional baseline. In Joseph Murphy's words, the subconscious is impressed by feeling. Feeling is the language of the subconscious. So if your affirmations say, I am wealthy, but your inner emotion is, this feels fake, I'm panicking, then guess what the subconscious hears? Not the words, the feeling. It hears, yes, wealth is not true for me. Yes, panic is normal. Yes, struggle is familiar. And again it responds, says yes. Yes to the fear. Yes to the conflict. Yes to the uncertainty. Because it is your servant. And it always obeys the loudest command. So here's the shift. To rewrite your subconscious, you don't negotiate with it. You don't beg. You don't affirm blindly. You speak to it in the language it understands. Emotional clarity. Internal authority. Repetition with resonance. Murphy emphasized this repeatedly. Your subconscious creates your reality by default, unless you intentionally override its program. That's not some abstract spiritual statement. That's an operational law of your inner system. And here's how it connects to quantum field mechanics. Your subconscious determines your vibrational signature. That signature interacts with the probabilistic field, not by pulling things in, but by locking in alignment with one specific timeline. Every time you think a belief with strong emotional backing, you're tuning to a frequency. That frequency isn't just symbolic. It's directive. It informs the field which version of reality you're authorized to access. So the next time you say, I always get overlooked, or nothing ever works for me, or I can't trust people, understand that those aren't complaints. They're instructions. They're energetic commands. They're orders your subconscious is saying yes to right now, and the field is listening. To begin rewriting reality, you must start by upgrading your subconscious commands. You must become aware of your default internal loops. Because the first code Joseph Murphy gave us is not just a metaphor. It's an operational truth. The subconscious always says yes. So the real question is, what is it saying yes to? Next, we will uncover how belief operates like a frequency, and why that changes everything you think you know about manifestation. Every thought you think, every statement you repeat, every emotional narrative you allow to loop inside your mind is a command, not a suggestion, not a metaphor. Command. This is the foundation of Joseph Murphy's most important code. The subconscious always says yes. Let's make this practical. You're experiencing a financial challenge. You feel anxious, uncertain, and desperate to improve the situation. So you repeat affirmations like, I am financially free. Money flows easily to me. I attract abundance. But at the same time, your body is tense. Your heart is pounding. Your mind keeps spinning scenarios where you can't pay rent next month. You feel like you're lying to yourself. The affirmation is clear, but the feeling underneath is louder. And your subconscious isn't listening to the words, it's picking up the dominant emotional frequency. And what does it do? It obeys. The subconscious doesn't analyze your input. It doesn't distinguish between helpful and harmful. It takes whatever is most emotionally charged and repeated, and says yes. If the emotion behind your affirmation is fear, your subconscious agrees with that fear. If the emotion is doubt, your subconscious agrees with that doubt. If the emotion is trust, now you're getting somewhere, because finally you're impressing the right command. Murphy called the subconscious a faithful servant. But that metaphor only scratches the surface. Think of your subconscious as a quantum command interface, a bridge between your identity and the field of all probabilities, scanning your thoughts, your language, and your dominant emotional states. And it's continuously generating outcomes to match. This is why people feel like they're stuck in a loop. They want better, they hope for better, they even try to act better. But the loop persists. Why? Because the subconscious hasn't received new instructions. And even when it does, through affirmations, meditations, or scripting, those instructions are often canceled out by underlying emotional frequencies. Here's how it really works. The subconscious accepts your instructions only if they're delivered with emotional authority and internal consistency. You can't say, "I am loved," while secretly expecting abandonment and expect change. You can't say, "I am powerful," while expecting to fail and expect results. The subconscious isn't listening to the conscious statement, it's tuning into the emotional field. And here's where quantum physics enters the picture. Your thoughts generate electrical signals. Your emotions generate magnetic fields. Together, they create an electromagnetic signature, an energetic pattern that interacts with the quantum field. Every belief you hold creates this energetic imprint. Now remember, the quantum field contains infinite probabilities. Every version of your life exists as a wave function. It's not fixed until it's observed, expected, and emotionally reinforced. Your subconscious belief system is that observer, not a passive one, but an active constructor of which timeline becomes your lived experience. That's why Murphy said, "Change your belief, and you change your destiny." Not metaphorically, literally. If you keep believing things never work out for me, the field collapses into timelines where they don't. If you deeply install the belief, "I always rise, no matter what," the field reorganizes to support that command. Not because you attract it, because you authorize it through subconscious precision. So here's the real challenge. How do you catch and correct unconscious commands? Start by listening to your repetition patterns. The things you say over and over when no one's watching. The thoughts that loop when you're alone. The feelings you replay even when your circumstances don't require them. If you catch yourself thinking, "This is too hard. People always leave. I never have enough," you're hearing the subconscious commands that are running the show. Don't analyze them. Don't moralize them. Just rewrite them. Because if the subconscious always says yes, then your new role is to issue better commands, repetitive, emotionally congruent, and identity-backed. Murphy emphasized autosuggestion, not as wishful thinking, but as deliberate self-instruction. You don't ask the subconscious. You tell it, with clarity, with conviction, with certainty. And here's where resonance matters. When you feel the truth of the command, when the statement, "I am healthy," carries emotional voltage, your subconscious accepts it immediately. The quantum field receives the updated frequency, and the new timeline activates. So let's make it even clearer. Every time you repeat a belief, whether helpful or harmful, you're collapsing a specific reality into form. Not randomly, not sometimes, every single time. That's the power of this code. That's the danger of letting it go unchecked. And that's the opportunity you now have. Here's your first protocol. Identify one recurring negative belief you've unknowingly commanded. Rewrite it into a concise, emotionally resonant statement of truth. Repeat it internally with feeling, especially as you fall asleep or wake up. Refuse to cancel it with words or thoughts that contradict. Treat that instruction like a key, not to a metaphorical door, but to a timeline that is already waiting in the field. Because once the subconscious accepts the new command, the field says, yes, let it be so. Next, we will explore how beliefs act as broadcast frequencies, and how that determines which version of reality answers back. Every belief you hold is not just a concept. It's a frequency. A belief is not some abstract thought floating around in your mind. It's a precise energy signature. And that signature doesn't stay internal. It broadcasts outward. Just like a radio tower sends a signal, your beliefs emit frequencies that interact with the quantum field. Here's the mistake most people make. They believe their thoughts are private. They think their inner stories are harmless. They assume their beliefs don't matter unless acted upon. That's not true. Your beliefs are the action. Your beliefs are the frequency. Your beliefs are the selector mechanism for which version of reality you access. Let's break that down. Every moment of your life, you are surrounded by possibilities. In the quantum field, these possibilities exist as wave potential. They're not fixed. They're not defined. They are waiting to be collapsed into experience. And the mechanism that selects one wave over another is not luck. It's resonance. You resonate with a specific outcome through belief. Not just conscious belief, but subconscious alignment. If you hold the belief, I am successful, you tune your signal to timelines where that identity is true. If you hold the belief, I am unlucky, you tune your signal to timelines where that identity repeats. Again, this is not metaphor. It's mechanics. Think of belief like a frequency broadcast, and the quantum field like a multidimensional mirror. The field doesn't respond to who you hope to be. It reflects who you already are internally. So now let's ask the real question. Which version of you are your beliefs currently broadcasting? Murphy said, change your conception of yourself and you automatically change the world in which you live. This isn't just philosophical. This is frequency precision. Let's say you start shifting your self-concept to, I am a confident communicator. Initially, this belief might feel foreign. It might feel fake. That's because your subconscious hasn't fully integrated the new broadcast. But if you persist emotionally, consistently, and clearly, the belief starts to override the old signal. The subconscious updates. The frequency changes. And now the field reflects back situations, opportunities, and timelines that support this identity. That's not attraction. That's alignment. A signal found its match. Think of the field like a reality tuner. Belief equals frequency. Frequency equals access. Access equals experience. So, no matter how much action you take, if your internal frequency isn't aligned, you're locked out of that experience. This is why two people can take the same steps. One succeeds, the other struggles. Same effort, different frequency. The one with internal resonance activates the matching timeline. The one without it keeps recycling the same results. That's not because one deserves it more. It's because one is broadcasting the correct internal access code. So let's make this practical. You want to shift your financial situation. You can take action, get new strategies, learn new skills. But unless you broadcast, I am someone who creates wealth easily, you are not in energetic alignment with timelines where wealth flows naturally. You might touch those timelines temporarily. You might visit them during high states of motivation. But your default belief will pull you back. Because the field is faithful to the dominant signal. That signal isn't just your thoughts. It's your felt identity. Murphy's method of belief transformation was not about force. It was about saturation. He taught that beliefs change through repetition plus feeling plus internalized imagery. That combination creates a new frequency. And that frequency reaches the quantum field with clarity. Think of it like this. A belief you think once is noise. A belief you repeat emotionally is a broadcast. A belief you embody fully is a reality script. And that script instructs the field what to make real. So how do you upgrade your broadcast? First, identify the current frequency you're transmitting. What are your top 3 repeated thoughts about money, health, relationships, or worthiness? What feelings do those thoughts generate? How often are you broadcasting them? Second, overwrite with precision. Craft new beliefs that carry emotional truth, not fantasy authority. Instead of, I wish I could be confident, use confidence is my natural frequency. I remember it now. Instead of, I want to be chosen, say, I am the one that's always chosen. My frequency selects me first. Third, reinforce daily. Your subconscious updates through consistent input, not instant inspiration. Make these beliefs your new emotional default, because the field doesn't reward positivity. It reflects resonance. And belief is resonance, coded in thought, amplified by emotion, and authorized by identity. That's how you tune to a new timeline, not by asking, by broadcasting. Next, we will look at one of the most misunderstood belief codes Murphy ever taught, and why simply feeling as if often misfires unless you understand the real signal behind it. Repeating affirmations, visualizing outcomes, thinking positively. You've heard these strategies 1,000 times. You've probably used them, and sometimes you feel a flicker of hope, a spark of momentum, but then reality doesn't move. The changes you expected don't arrive. The results stall, and you're left wondering, why didn't it work? You followed the instructions. You pictured the outcome. You did the inner work. Didn't you? Now here's where Joseph Murphy's fourth belief code rewrites the rulebook. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Not think about it. Not imagine it. Not act as if. But assume the feeling. That word, assume, is everything. It means to take it on completely. To own it. To carry the energy of the outcome now. Not in some future state, but in your emotional body right now in this exact moment. And that's where most people miss the mark. Because they visualize the outcome, but they don't feel it. Or they feel it, but only for 30 seconds. Then they return to their dominant state of doubt, stress, or hesitation. Murphy's instruction is not about a momentary performance. It's about emotional replacement. Your old feelings, the ones that resonate with lack, with absence, with struggle, must be displaced by a new emotional field that reflects the alreadiness of your desired outcome. This isn't spiritual poetry. This is mechanical. It's how the subconscious understands instruction. Let's break this apart. Your subconscious doesn't understand future tense. It doesn't comprehend someday or soon. It understands now. So when you feel, I will be wealthy, your subconscious hears, wealth is not present. When you feel, I want love, your subconscious registers, I am without love, and it says yes, and the quantum field responds, with timelines that mirror the feeling of lack. Murphy knew this. That's why he emphasized feeling, not hoping, feeling, not pretending, feeling, not forcing, and not just surface-level emotion, visceral, full-body certainty. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you bypass mental resistance. You step into identity ownership. You don't hope to become someone who is confident. You feel as if you already are. You don't wish to become someone who is financially free. You assume the state of freedom right now before it's proven by your bank account. This is where quantum self-alignment comes into play. The field doesn't respond to what's logically accurate. It responds to what's energetically congruent. And when your inner world radiates the emotional signal of the fulfilled wish, not as fantasy but as current identity, the field collapses to match. This is the key. You don't create the outcome. You resonate with it. And in that resonance, the matching timeline becomes visible. Let's be precise. You want to shift your health. You've struggled with symptoms, fatigue, imbalance. You visualize perfect health. You repeat affirmations. You eat the right food. But your internal emotional environment is still tuned to, I'm sick. I'm broken. I don't trust my body. That emotional frequency contradicts your efforts. And your subconscious, as always, says yes to the loudest signal. The solution: replace the frequency. Assume the feeling, not of trying to heal, but of already being healed. Feel the lightness. Feel the vitality. Feel the trust in your system. Even if symptoms still exist, your job isn't to argue with them. Your job is to override the emotional baseline. Because once your feeling state changes, deeply and consistently, your subconscious gets new marching orders, and the field shifts accordingly. Murphy taught that your subconscious is moved by inner dramatization. When you can mentally and emotionally rehearse your desired outcome with enough detail and sensory impact, your subconscious accepts it as true. Not eventually true, but already true. That's why athletes visualize victory before the game. That's why musicians rehearse entire performances in their mind before touching an instrument. Because the subconscious doesn't need external proof. It only needs internal emotional certainty. So ask yourself right now, have you truly assumed the feeling of your wish fulfilled? Or are you still performing a mental routine while emotionally aligned with the old reality? This code only activates when the emotional assumption is total. And once that happens, there's nothing left to chase. Because you're no longer trying to become, you already are. And the field has no choice but to reflect that signal back. Let's solidify this into practice. Choose one outcome you want to shift. Keep it specific and emotionally compelling. Identify the emotional state that would naturally accompany that outcome. If you were already in that reality, what would you feel? Calm? Power? Joy? Trust? Be precise. Activate that feeling intentionally. Not for a minute. Not for a meditation. Make it your dominant state. Catch and correct the default emotion that contradicts it. Whenever you notice fear, doubt, or lack resurfacing, pause. Re-enter the fulfilled state. You don't need to control the field. You need to maintain the signal. That's how timelines collapse. That's how outcomes accelerate. That's how you stop chasing and start tuning. Because the wish is never far away. It's already in the field. You simply have to become the version of you who's already living it. Next, we will uncover how the field actually knows which version of you to materialize, by exploring the physics behind timeline selection. You've heard the phrase, you are the creator of your reality. But have you ever asked, how does that actually work? Not poetically, not philosophically, mechanically. Out of all the infinite outcomes available in the quantum field, why this one? Why this exact version of you? Joseph Murphy's teachings give us clues, but it's quantum theory that provides the framework. And when you merge them, the result is stunning. The version of you that materializes in your life isn't created. It's selected. You are not constructing reality from scratch. You are collapsing one version from a field of many. Let's simplify this. The quantum field contains all possibilities. That means every outcome you can think of already exists in potential form. There's a version of you who is wealthy, one who is sick, one who is joyful, one who is depressed, one who is fearless. They all exist simultaneously, not in fantasy, but in waveform. And the question becomes, which one does the field resolve into your visible experience? The answer, the one your identity resonates with most consistently. Not the one you want, the one you feel real, the one you expect, the one you assume. Your identity is the selector mechanism. Murphy knew this when he said, your subconscious mind accepts whatever you feel to be true, not what you hope, not what you visualize briefly, what you feel to be true habitually. That feeling is not just emotion, it's frequency, and that frequency points to one specific version of you inside the field. Let's bring this into the language of quantum mechanics. There's a principle called superposition. It states that particles exist in all possible states until they are observed. Observation collapses the wave into one state. Everything else disappears. That's not theory. That's measured science. Now apply that to your identity. Your belief system, especially subconscious beliefs, acts as a type of inner observer. It determines which of the infinite versions of you gets activated. It's not based on action. It's based on alignment. And that alignment is rooted in emotional resonance. So here's the stunning realization. The version of you that becomes real is the version your subconscious accepts as true. Murphy didn't speak in the language of quantum physics, but every principle he taught maps directly onto it. His concept of belief as creative law is another way of saying, belief determines frequency. Frequency selects reality. Now think of your self-concept like a template. That template tells the field, this is who I am. Bring me the world that fits. If your self-concept is, I'm always overlooked, then the field says, understood, activating the timeline where you're ignored. If your self-concept is, I'm a leader, a magnet for expansion, then the field adjusts and says, confirmed, collapsing that version into experience. There's no emotion in this process, no judgment, only coherence. The field mirrors what you broadcast, nothing more, nothing less. So here's the next layer. Every time you repeat a behavior, a thought, or an emotion, you're reinforcing a timeline. You're voting for one version of you to become dominant. That's not spiritual metaphor. That's energetic consistency. Your job is to choose the version of you that reflects your highest truth, and stabilize it through belief, emotion, and daily energetic precision. It's not enough to believe it once. You must become it in frequency. And once that frequency is your norm, the field shifts without resistance. It's not a miracle. It's mechanics. So let's turn this into clear action. Define the version of you you're choosing to materialize. This isn't about goals. It's about identity. Who are you in that timeline? Install that identity through belief statements, visual rehearsal, and emotional states. Speak it. Feel it. Move as if it's your default. Eliminate contradiction. Stop voting for the old version through behavior and self-talk. Catch every thought that reinforces timelines you've already exited. Hold the alignment, not for a result, but because you are now this version. And the field will follow, because it must. It's not about deserving. It's about coherence. When your identity aligns with a version of you that exists in the field, that version becomes physical. That's how the field knows. That's how timelines collapse. That's how you rewrite everything. Next, we will break apart one of the most counterintuitive yet powerful truths Murphy ever revealed. That trying harder often guarantees failure. You've heard it since childhood. Try harder. Push through. Hustle more. Success, they said, comes from relentless effort. But there's a problem. For many people, the harder they try, the more stuck they become. The dream doesn't move closer. The results don't accelerate. In fact, reality starts to resist even more. You've experienced this. The job you wanted that slipped away right after an intense mental focus. The relationship you tried to fix that cracked further. The financial goal that seemed to vanish the moment you obsessed over it. And Joseph Murphy understood exactly why this happens. He called it the law of reversed effort. It's not just a cute phrase. It's a deeply revealing look at how your subconscious and the quantum field respond to pressure, force, and effort rooted in resistance. Let's strip it down to the root. The moment you try too hard for something, you're implying one core idea. This is not currently true. And that implication doesn't just stay in your head. It ripples into your emotional field. It turns your effort into a broadcast of lack. Let that land. Effort, when driven by desperation, is a frequency. And it's not neutral. It's coded with fear, uncertainty, and grasping. And once the subconscious receives that input, it says, yes. Yes, this is out of reach. Yes, this is difficult. Yes, this is something I do not yet possess. The field, ever responsive, reflects that inner vibration. Not your goal, not your dream, but your dominant emotional broadcast. That's why Murphy warned against effort that emerges from resistance. He said, the subconscious mind accepts the dominant idea, not the one you insist upon forcibly. The more you push, the more you reinforce its absence. And the more absence you feel, the deeper your reality reflects that emptiness. This is the energetic trap. It's subtle, but it's exact. Now, let's clarify something. This doesn't mean you sit still and do nothing. It means your energetic posture, Not your activity level determines how the field responds. You can take action from trust. You can take action from joy. You can take action from inner certainty. And those actions are magnetic. But the moment your effort is laced with doubt, worry, or panic, you are signaling resistance. And resistance is the opposite of allowance. Murphy's law of reversed effort teaches this. The harder you try to force your subconscious, the more it resists because it senses tension. Tension equals confusion, and confusion equals signal distortion. Think of your subconscious like water. If you try to push it aggressively in one direction, it scatters. If you allow it to flow through clear intention and emotional steadiness, it carves paths with quiet power. Here's an example. Let's say you're trying to land a promotion. You start obsessing. You repeat affirmations, but they feel forced. You watch every word you say in meetings. You analyze every glance from your manager. You are mentally consumed with the idea. Will it happen? Underneath that thought is another, stronger one. What if it doesn't? That's the signal the subconscious receives. And that's what it says yes to. Meanwhile, the version of you who already has the promotion, who already carries that energy and expectation as normal, is broadcasting peace, calm, certainty, and trust. That version is aligned. That version resonates with the timeline where the promotion is inevitable. That version doesn't need to chase, because they already are. The law of reversed effort teaches us to check the source of our action. Is it flowing from abundance or grasping from lack? That difference is everything. Now let's connect this to quantum principles. In quantum physics, effort doesn't collapse a probability wave. Observation with coherent intention does. Effort, when infused with doubt, actually prolongs superposition. You stay in the limbo state. Your energy is fractured. Your signal is scrambled. But when your identity aligns fully with the outcome, and there's no grasping, no trying, no need, the field responds instantly. You've stopped pushing and started allowing, not passive allowance. Powerful, stable, identity-backed allowance. The energy is, I already am, I already have, I already know. The field registers that as, collapse this timeline now. So here's how you apply the law. Notice effort that feels desperate. Pause. Ask yourself, am I acting from trust or fear? Stop feeding the problem with force. You're not trying to make it happen. You're aligning with the version where it already is. Replace effort with embodiment. Ask, how would I feel if this was already done? Now act from that space. Withdraw emotional investment from absence. Refuse to energize thoughts of delay, worry, or what if not? They are votes for a timeline you don't want. Reclaim your authority. Speak to your subconscious with clarity. Not begging, not hoping, but instructing. Murphy made this simple. Your subconscious obeys your emotional atmosphere, not your physical hustle. The field is neutral. It doesn't respond to noise. It responds to clarity. The less you grasp, the more you allow. The more you allow, the more the desired timeline resolves. That's not paradox. That's precision. Next, we will explore how your very identity becomes the blueprint for the realities you experience, and how your subconscious uses it as a default command. You live inside a self-concept, not a personality, not a list of traits, but a template that tells your subconscious and the quantum field, this is who I am. And everything you experience flows from that template. Joseph Murphy knew this truth deeply. He said, you build your life out of the images you hold in your subconscious. Your self-concept is that image. It's not a conscious thought. It's an emotional and energetic blueprint. And it's running your life. This blueprint determines what you believe you deserve, what you expect from others, what results you tolerate, how your body reacts, what relationships you attract, which timelines the quantum field selects. Not sometimes, always. That's because your subconscious uses this identity template as its operating system. It refers to it constantly, and it adjusts all commands to match the dominant identity in place. So if you try to introduce a new belief, like, I am powerful, but your self-concept still carries the signature of, I am insignificant, guess which one the subconscious listens to? The one you emotionally believe, the one you've repeated through behavior, the one you live. Self-concept is the core of manifestation. Change it and everything else updates automatically. Because once you shift who you are, the field no longer has permission to send you the old patterns. Those patterns belong to a version of you that no longer exists. Murphy emphasized this. He taught that every change must be accepted internally first, as identity, not wish, not plan, not potential. Who you are being determines what life becomes. Let's explore the quantum aspect of this. In quantum physics, there's a concept called decoherence. It describes the process by which a quantum system moves from possibility to definite outcome, based on environmental interactions. Now apply that metaphorically to your identity. Your self-concept is the environment your subconscious and field respond to. If your identity emits the signal, I'm the kind of person who's always left behind, then even if you say you want connection, the field resolves to match your identity first. Self-concept carries more weight than desire. It's the signal beneath the signal. That's why some people repeat affirmations for years and see no shift. Their identity stayed rooted in the past. Their words changed, but their blueprint remained untouched. Let's make this real. A person wants to become a successful entrepreneur. They study strategy. They take courses. They create offers. But inside, they still see themselves as the person who fails at ideas, the one who never finishes things, the imposter. That self-concept sends the command. The subconscious complies, and the field delivers outcomes consistent with that identity. Not because of lack of effort, but because effort can't override identity. Only identity holds command authority. So how do you shift it? Start by identifying the identity loop currently running. Look at what you say after I am. Notice what you expect from life without thinking. Trace the stories you tell yourself repeatedly. These reveal the hidden self-concept. Then build the new one with emotional repetition and evidence selection. What does that mean? You don't just say, I am a powerful creator. You feel what that version of you would feel. You repeat it until it becomes natural. You notice even the smallest evidence that supports it, and you lock it in. Over time, the subconscious updates its internal template. And once that update is accepted, the quantum field aligns with that version of you. Murphy said, as within, so without. As you conceive yourself to be, so shall you be. This is not philosophical. This is procedural. Every timeline you access, every pattern you repeat, every result you attract, is pre-authorized by your identity. You are the architect. You are the transmitter. You are the selector. So choose wisely, because the field listens to one voice above all, the one you believe you are. Next, we will unlock the fourth code, one that explains why asking never works, and how the field only responds to energetic command backed by authority. Look closely at how you make requests to the universe. Look closely at how you speak to yourself. Look even closer at how you speak to your desires. Do your words carry authority? Or are they wrapped in doubt, hesitation, or subtle begging? Because here's the truth Joseph Murphy insisted on. Your subconscious mind is not moved by supplication. It is moved by conviction. You are not meant to beg for results. You are meant to impress your command upon the subconscious. And when that command is clear, confident, and emotionally certain, the quantum field responds immediately. This is the fourth belief code. Impress, don't beg. The reason most manifestation techniques fail is not because people lack intention. It's because their tone of energy is all wrong. They ask the subconscious for change the way someone pleads at a locked door. Please let this happen. Please give me this outcome. Please don't let me fail. But the subconscious doesn't open to that tone. It doesn't register uncertainty as instruction. And the quantum field certainly doesn't collapse into alignment with a whisper of maybe. It responds only to frequency of command. That means, you don't ask, you declare. You don't beg, you impress. You don't wish, you assert. And Murphy's teachings make it crystal clear, your subconscious is moved by feeling and repetition, but only when those two are backed by emotional authority. Let's understand what it means to impress the subconscious. The word impress is not symbolic, it's mechanical. You are literally pressing a belief into the subconscious through emotion and certainty. The deeper the impression, the faster the field moves. Why? Because the subconscious becomes the transmitter. And when the transmitter carries a strong signal, the collapse of the desired timeline is precise and inevitable. Now contrast that with hoping. Hoping is energetically weak. It implies that the desired thing may or may not happen, carries a signature of absence. And absence is not a match to manifestation. Begging implies separation. Authority implies union. When you speak with energetic authority, you're not just making statements. You're aligning identity with outcome. You're saying, this is already mine. This is who I am. This is what is. The subconscious receives that and says, yes, understood. And the field aligns instantly. Because when identity, belief, and emotion are aligned, the field has no choice. It collapses the wave function that matches that energetic coherence. Let's look at it from a quantum lens. The field contains infinite probabilities. But probabilities don't collapse from suggestion. They collapse from certainty. That certainty doesn't require external proof. It requires internal congruence. So when you say, I am wealthy, but you feel lack, the subconscious gets mixed signals, and the field delays. But when you declare, I am wealth in human form, and that statement is felt, believed, and consistent with your emotional posture, the subconscious is impressed, and the field receives clear coordinates. That's how new timelines are selected. Not through force, not through begging, through inner authority. Murphy warned against asking with desperation, because desperation is itself an instruction. You are saying, I don't have, I don't believe, I can't. That energy creates more delay, more effort, more waiting. Authority energy says, I already am, I already know, I already receive. You're not convincing the universe, you're instructing the subconscious. And once that impression is deep enough, the field adjusts without resistance. Let's break this into something you can apply now. If you've been visualizing an outcome, but your internal voice says things like, I hope this works. I wish I could finally get this. I need this badly. Stop. You are not speaking with the voice of command. You are speaking from powerlessness. Instead, ask, how would I speak to this reality if I already knew it was mine? How would I move if I had nothing to prove, nothing to earn, nothing to chase? Speak from there. Move from there. Broadcast from there. This is what Murphy meant when he said you must assume the answer before it appears. You impress the desired outcome so deeply that the subconscious begins to treat it as current fact. And then your body follows. Your choices shift. The world reshapes, not because you begged, because you broadcasted. Impressing the subconscious is not about one perfect meditation. It's about repetition that reinforces authority. Repetition that says, this is not negotiable. This is identity. And when your subconscious accepts it, it executes without hesitation, because it's not judging what you said. It's obeying the dominant signal. So here's the protocol. Identify the area of life you've been begging for change. Notice the language you've used internally or aloud. Rewrite your inner command. Remove uncertainty. Remove, I hope. Remove, I want. Replace it with, I am. It is done. This is the truth now. Impress the new command during receptive states, especially as you fall asleep or just as you wake up, times when your subconscious is most programmable. Eliminate contradiction. If you speak with authority in one moment, but undo it with doubt 10 minutes later, you're sending scrambled instructions. Maintain your emotional posture. Confidence is not arrogance. It's coherence. Speak like it's already real. Feel like it's already done. Move like it's already yours. Because when you impress, the field must express. Next, we will explore the difference between passive visualizing and real subconscious programming, and why one keeps you looping while the other rewrites your entire reality map. You close your eyes. You see yourself living the life you want. The money, the love, the health, the freedom. It all looks beautiful. You finish the visualization. You feel a little lighter. Then life returns. And not much changes. This is the hidden trap of modern manifestation culture. People confuse visualizing with programming. But one entertains the mind. The other rewires reality. This is the distinction Joseph Murphy made crystal clear. Your subconscious doesn't respond to pictures. It responds to pictures with emotional ownership. It's not about what you see. It's about what you believe and feel to be real. So let's make this plain. If your visualizations are passive, unfocused, or emotionally detached, you are just daydreaming. You are watching a movie in your head, but not shifting the channel of your life. Real programming is active, intentional, repetitive, and emotionally potent. Murphy emphasized that subconscious change happens through saturation, repeated input delivered with feeling and certainty. Just visualizing a better reality without deep emotional integration is like painting over rust. The image may look new, but the structure underneath still rots. So how do you program instead of daydream? Start with emotional rehearsal. You're not just seeing the outcome. You're entering it. You're speaking from inside it. You're generating the emotion it would naturally produce. If you're visualizing wealth, don't just see the money. Feel the relief, the freedom, the sense of certainty. If you're visualizing love, don't just imagine the partner. Feel the security, the warmth, the mutual recognition. Emotion is not decoration. It is instruction. The subconscious receives instruction only when it's delivered through the channel of emotion. Not the words, not the image, the feeling. Murphy's process always linked thought plus feeling plus repetition. That is the formula. Let's bring in the quantum aspect. When you visualize with emotional charge, you're emitting a vibrational frequency that overwrites the default broadcast. You're selecting a new timeline and making it louder than the old one. The quantum field is not waiting for you to be perfect. It's waiting for you to be clear. Clear in your identity. Clear in your broadcast. Clear in your emotion. Clarity doesn't come from passive hoping. It comes from repetition under resonance. So here's how to stop daydreaming and start programming. Enter the visualization as if it were already your memory. Don't watch it like a movie. Be inside it. First person. Real time. Engage your senses. What do you see, hear, touch, smell, or taste in that version of reality? This creates a multisensory imprint, which anchors the scene more deeply. Charge it with feeling. Identify the dominant emotion of the fulfilled outcome and amplify it. This is the bridge between thought and belief. Repeat during altered states. Use theta brainwave windows, early morning, late night, or during meditation. These are the moments when the subconscious is most impressionable. Reinforce outside the ritual. Don't collapse the signal by contradicting it throughout the day. Your reality is not shaped by isolated moments. Is shaped by dominant emotional tone. Murphy taught that your subconscious mind will accept any idea, if repeated enough and believed with feeling. This is not magic. This is neuroplasticity meeting quantum consistency. The rituals work when they install new identity parameters. You're not visualizing to get the thing. You're visualizing to become the version of you for whom it's already normal. And once your subconscious locks in that identity, the quantum field restructures itself accordingly. That's why it's not about visualizing harder. It's about broadcasting stronger. You must stop watching your future like a movie. You must start living it internally as now. Then reality will follow. Next, we will break open the fifth and final code, one that reveals the true structure of the subconscious. Not judge, not gatekeeper, but servant. And the only question left is, who's writing the orders? Your subconscious is not analyzing your life. It is not weighing right against wrong. It is not evaluating what is good for you or what might hurt you. It is not your protector. It is not your critic. It is your servant, and it follows orders, not conscious ones, not wishful ones, but the ones it receives with repetition and emotional clarity. That's the essence of Joseph Murphy's fifth belief code. Your subconscious is a servant, not a judge. It does not question your beliefs. It doesn't care if your thoughts are empowering or destructive. It accepts them, implements them, and replicates them in the structure of your reality. The real danger and the real opportunity is this: you are writing orders to your subconscious all day long, in your self-talk, in your reactions, in your assumptions, in your emotions, and the subconscious is recording every signal, without argument, without delay, without filtering for your highest good. That job is yours. So ask yourself, are you aware of the orders you're writing? Are you deliberate in the commands you're sending? Or are you letting outdated beliefs run the console without question? This code flips everything upside down, because it removes the illusion that your subconscious knows best. It doesn't. It simply follows, and it always says yes. That means if your dominant story is, "I always struggle with money," your subconscious accepts that as true, even if you're consciously trying to change. It says, "Understood. Keep delivering financial difficulty." If your self-concept says, "I don't trust people," your subconscious doesn't ask why. It instructs the field to provide you with betrayals, distance, and lack of support. That's not punishment. That's precision. You are the source of the script, and your subconscious is the executor. Murphy compared the subconscious to a soil, one that grows whatever seed you plant. If you plant thorns, don't expect roses. If you plant doubt, don't expect breakthroughs. The soil doesn't choose. It responds. And just like soil, it doesn't care what you plant. It just produces abundantly. So the question is not, why isn't the universe giving me what I want? It's, what seeds am I planting without realizing it? What beliefs am I rehearsing? What assumptions am I making? What words am I repeating under my breath every single day? Because those are the orders. And those orders shape every detail of your life. This principle maps perfectly to quantum theory. The field of probability is neutral. It doesn't judge. It doesn't prioritize what's good or bad. It simply responds to the signal being broadcast. And your subconscious generates that signal. Not sometimes, constantly. When you program it with clear, empowered instructions, you shift the entire vibrational framework that the quantum field responds to. But when you leave it unguarded, running outdated programs from childhood, culture, or trauma, you repeat timelines that are no longer relevant to who you're becoming. Not because you're unworthy, but because the servant is still following yesterday's orders. This is why Murphy was relentless in his message. You must take full authorship of your internal programming. You must become conscious of what you unconsciously believe. And you must give your subconscious better orders. That means clear, intentional statements. That means repetition, especially during subconscious accessible states. That means emotional charge behind your words. The subconscious doesn't respond to logic. It responds to conviction. If you say, "I am healthy," but feel fear and doubt, you're sending contradictory signals, and the subconscious stays confused. But when you speak from inner authority, "I am radiantly healthy, and that is my permanent state," with emotion and repetition, the subconscious rewires, and the field reorders. Let's talk execution. How do you take control of your internal order system? Audit your beliefs. Start noticing the thoughts that appear most often, especially during quiet moments or stress. Write them down. Don't filter. Just observe what commands you've already been sending. Identify the top 3 beliefs that contradict your desired reality. Pick the ones that have been most emotionally charged or consistently repeated. These are the most potent instructions currently active. Neutralize and replace. Create a reversal for each belief. Something concise, emotionally true, and written in present tense. Instead of, I always struggle, write, I am the kind of person who always finds a way, and I thrive through it. Instead of people let me down, write, I am always supported by aligned, loyal people who love and uplift me. Repeat in key windows. Your subconscious is most programmable during sleep transitions. Use these moments. Repeat your new commands mentally just before sleep and immediately upon waking. Don't skip. Consistency is how the servant rewires. Guard your language. Never let careless phrases become repeated orders. Catch casual statements like, I can't do this. I always mess up. That's just how I am. Cancel them. Replace them. You are always speaking into your subconscious, even when you think you're joking. The final key. Know that the subconscious doesn't care if your new belief is real by external proof. It only cares if you deliver it with emotional authority. Once that happens, it will do everything in its power to make the external world conform to the internal order. Because that's its only job. It doesn't argue. It doesn't delay. It doesn't hesitate. It serves. And it's time you stepped into the position of author. Because when the servant receives clear instruction, the field activates without resistance. Next, we will unlock how one microscopic shift in belief can collapse your current timeline instantly, and why assumption, not action, is the true lever of transformation. Right now, you're occupying one version of reality, one timeline, one trajectory, one set of outcomes. But that version is not fixed. It's not absolute. It's not the only one available. Quantum theory confirms what mystics intuited long ago. Multiple timelines, multiple versions of you, exist simultaneously. And the one you experience as real is selected, not randomly, but through internal alignment. Here's the breakthrough Joseph Murphy hinted at in his work. You don't need to change your entire life. You only need to change your assumption. Because assumption is the frequency selector. It determines which version of you becomes visible. Tells the quantum field, this is who I am now. And in that one shift, entire timelines collapse. Let's walk through this carefully. When you assume a belief, not hope for it, not daydream about it, but assume it as fact, you instantly change the vibrational field your subconscious emits. And the field of probability reorganizes around that new frequency. You don't have to take 100 steps. You only have to become someone new in belief. This is why Murphy said, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not just as an exercise, but as an instruction to the universe. Because when the assumption is deep enough, it replaces your default signal, and the version of reality that matches it becomes activated. Let's ground this in an example. Let's say you've struggled financially for years. Your identity is tied to limitation, hard work with little return, and scarcity. One day something clicks. You decide, I am no longer this person. You don't just say it. You feel it. You assume it. You hold that assumption like it's law. You reject thoughts of contradiction. You speak from the new version. You act like it's done. Not with arrogance, with energetic clarity. Within hours, days, or weeks, reality starts to shift. Why? Because you're no longer broadcasting the frequency of the old self. You've collapsed the old timeline, and you've activated the one that matches the assumption. That's not wishful thinking. That's how wave function collapse works. That's identity resonance. You didn't attract wealth. You became the version of you that always had it. And the field simply responded. Here's the misunderstanding most people carry. They believe change is slow. They believe it must come from grinding and proving. They think their past defines their future. But none of that is true in a quantum universe. The field doesn't care about your history. It doesn't care what's been. It cares only about what's being assumed now. This is why Murphy's work is more powerful today than ever. Because in a probabilistic world, belief is not philosophy. It is physics. So how do you use this to shift your reality? Choose the version of you that has what you desire. Define them clearly. How do they think, feel, speak, move? Assume their identity as present. Not tomorrow. Not when results show. Now, today. Before the evidence. Cut emotional ties to the old timeline. Stop talking about it. Stop energizing it. Stop expecting it. Install the new assumption deeply, through repetition, through environment, through inner rehearsal. Live it until it becomes default. Stay consistent in signal. The field will test, not because it resists, but because you must become unwavering in your new resonance. The moment you shift your core assumption, everything around you begins reorganizing to match. People change. Opportunities appear. Problems dissolve. Not because you made it happen, but because you stopped being the version who repelled those outcomes. Here's the most powerful truth Murphy implied. You are not changing reality. You are changing your relationship to it. And in doing so, you collapse the timeline that no longer serves. Instantly, irrevocably, you didn't force a result. You became someone who made that result inevitable. Assumption is not passive. It is power. It is the exact moment a new life begins. Next, we will bring all 5 belief codes together and explore how to activate them as a single identity framework that makes quantum change permanent. You've made it through all 5 codes. Not just concepts, operating instructions. Not just theories, directives for rewriting your internal blueprint and commanding reality itself. Each code was a doorway. Each one peeled back a layer between who you've been and who you're now ready to be. But knowledge by itself doesn't cause change. Only integration does. Only activation does. So the question becomes, now that you have the codes, what happens when you actually live from them? What shifts when these principles stop being ideas in your head and start becoming the frequency of your life? What happens when your default mode isn't reaction, but precision? What happens when your subconscious isn't wandering, but obeying? What happens when the version of you that once seemed impossible becomes normal? Let's walk that path now, step by step through the final layer, integration and activation. This is where the real quantum shift begins. First, let's revisit what you now understand. The subconscious always says yes. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't question. It executes. That means every repeated thought, every emotional pattern, every belief you tolerate gets turned into instruction. And the field responds. Belief is frequency. Every belief emits a vibrational signature. That frequency aligns you with one specific version of reality. Not by attracting it, but by becoming the match to it. The wish fulfilled must be assumed. Not imagined, not wished for. Emotionally assumed. Only then does the subconscious accept it as truth, and only then does the field reflect it as reality. Trying harder blocks results. Force implies lack. Desperation sends the message, this is not mine, and the subconscious says yes to that frequency of absence. Results arrive through alignment, not strain. Your identity is the selector of timelines. The quantum field doesn't pick randomly. It locks onto the identity you most consistently embody. When you upgrade your self-concept, reality must change, because identity is the filter for possibility. You impress, you don't beg. Hope is weak. Command is magnetic. The subconscious doesn't listen to pleading. It listens to confident, repeated, emotionally backed instructions. And once impressed, it moves mountains. Passive visualizing is not programming. You are either daydreaming or recoding. Real change happens only when emotion, identity, and repetition combine to overwrite the old broadcast. Your subconscious is a servant. It is not judging. It is not wise. It is not discerning. It's running your life based on what you've repeatedly told it to believe. And unless you intervene, it will keep recreating the past, flawlessly. Timeline collapse is real. One assumption, held consistently with emotional truth, can erase an entire path you were on, and replace it with one that was waiting for your alignment. That's what the codes give you. Not control over the universe. Control over your signal. And that signal is the universe's instruction. So how do you live from the codes? Not as a part-time practice. Not as something you remember only when things go wrong. But as your operating system, here's the framework. 1. Command your subconscious daily. This is non-negotiable. Every morning and every night you issue your reality commands. Not affirmations for the sake of habit, but emotionally backed declarations of who you now are. Why morning and night? Because these are theta access windows when your subconscious is most receptive to impression. You use these moments to reinforce the identity, frequency, and assumption that matches your chosen timeline. Examples: I am already the version of me who has it. My subconscious executes my desires automatically. Every cell in my body aligns with the new timeline now. These are not requests, they are updates, and your subconscious obeys. 2. Filter your inner dialogue with military precision. You are always speaking to your subconscious, even when you're just thinking, even when you're joking, even when you're speaking under stress. So every word, every inner monologue, is either reinforcing the identity you're claiming or contradicting it. You must become ruthless about language. Catch the thoughts that say, I don't know how. This probably won't work. Things like that don't happen to me. Stop them. Not with guilt, with authority. Replace them. Immediately. Not later. Not someday. Right now. The subconscious has no sense of humor. It records everything. 3. Embody the wish fulfilled in the micro-moments. This is the most overlooked practice. You must practice being the version of you who already lives in your chosen timeline. In ordinary moments. Not just when you're visualizing. Not just during meditation. But in line at the store. During conflict. At work. While brushing your teeth. Ask, how would the version of me who already has this feel, walk, speak, choose, think right now? That question becomes your compass. And each time you act from that version, you reinforce the frequency that selects their timeline. Reality begins to follow, because your identity is no longer reaching. It's remembering. 4. Stop energizing the old timeline. No more storytelling. No more justification. No more, this is how it's always been. The moment you talk about the past as a defining force, you breathe life into a version of you that you've already decided to outgrow. So don't feed the old signal. Don't explain your trauma into permanence. Don't narrate your limitations into identity. Don't speak about what was unless it supports what now is. Silence is power. Use it. The less you energize the version of you that collapsed, the faster your current reality updates to match the new one. 5. Let your external world catch up, but don't wait for it. The field doesn't always reflect your change instantly, but it does respond instantly. You must understand this. The moment your subconscious accepts a new identity as true, the timeline is selected, but it still takes linear time for the full mirror to appear. That lag is where people sabotage themselves. They say, I've been doing the work, but nothing's changed. That very sentence undoes the broadcast. Live as if it's already real, with no panic, no hurry, no testing, just inner confirmation. You're not waiting, you're stabilizing. And once your frequency holds, reality tips, fast, permanently. Let's be very clear, this isn't self-help. This is self-alteration. You are not just improving your habits. You are replacing the energetic architecture of your being. That is what these 5 Joseph Murphy belief codes enable you to do. Speak to your subconscious in a language it understands. Recalibrate your emotional resonance to match the fulfilled outcome. Stop forcing and begin broadcasting certainty. Take control of the identity you embody and understand that it writes your reality script. Collapse timelines not by chasing change, but by assuming it into being. This is not about being perfect. It's about being precise. Reality doesn't respond to chaos. It responds to coherence. And when your beliefs, feelings, and actions begin vibrating in unity, the old world melts, and a new one rises. So now we ask, are you going to wait for the world to prove your new identity true? Or are you going to live as the proof? Are you going to keep speaking in contradiction? Or will you become the authority your subconscious has been waiting to follow? Are you going to keep tuning in to frequencies of lack, delay, and limitation? Or will you now choose the signal of certainty and hold it until the field complies? Because make no mistake, it will comply. That's not belief. That's law. So begin now. Speak the new commands. Feel them like their oxygen. Let every micro-choice reflect the version of you that already is. And know this with finality. You are not attracting change. You are resolving it. Through signal, through frequency, through identity. The field responds. Always. The only question is, what are you broadcasting? Now that you know the codes, now that you understand the mechanics, there's nothing left to wait for. Collapse the timeline, assume the self, and watch your world reconfigure. One frequency at a time.